Masculinity, the podcast where we dive deep into the untold stories and unspoken struggles of men's mental health, breaking down the barriers and building up stronger, healthier mindsets. I'm your host Avik, and today we are tackling something essential but often overlooked. It's self love and vulnerability in men. So, how can we hold space for our emotions while still embodying strength? And how do we flip the script on the outdated belief that real men don't cry? And also, what does it truly mean to be stoic and emotionally open, right? So, joining us is Cole Grace. So, welcome to the show, Cole.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Amazing, amazing. So, Cole, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you with all the listeners. So, dear listeners, Cole is a combat veteran who has started down the twin challenges of PTSD and addiction and came out the other side with wisdom, grit, and a mission to help others heal. So, he is the author of Internal to External Calming the Chaos Within, a powerful book about mastering your inner world to transform your outer one. So his story is real, raw, and remarkably relatable. And today we're unpacking it all. So, dear listeners, I'll not take much of your time. I'll quickly jump into the discussion. So, welcome to the show again, Cole.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to talk about this.
Amazing, amazing. So, Cole, like, you have lived through the combat, addiction, and the kind of soul searching that few people voluntarily step into. And I really want to start this like, when you think about self love today, what does it really mean to you as a man? And how has that definition evolved over the years?
Good question. With self-love, how I think of it now is essential to confidence and to actually embodying what I found to be true masculinity versus I was in a hyper masculine environment with being a soldier and being a combat. I used to disarm bombs. I was an athlete, and the definition of masculinity that we get is, a little different. And for me, when I had the first people get killed that I was with in Iraq, I developed this really mean internal critic, this inner voice, because I associated making a mistake with people dying or, you know, getting somebody killed or getting myself killed. And so in order to uh, cope with that, I became really mean to myself. Like, it's never good enough. Do it again. Do it blindfolded, be perfect. And it served me during the combat time, but when it carries over into normal life and I realize how mean I'm being to myself, it really affects my self-confidence and it affects the way that I approach the world. And
Mhm.
then that affects my reality. And, having this feeling that I'm not worthy when I get close to success or something, I self-sabotage or I used to, or I would accomplish the thing and then not feel joy because I didn't feel like I deserved it on a subconscious level.
Understood. Understood. And do you think that there's a misconception also that self love is somehow soft or unmasculine? Like, how do you personally reconcile the strength with the self compassion? What do you say?
Yeah. So I was on the other side of the fence for a while, like that's soft, that's namby pamby. That's not something that real men need to do is feelings like who wants to, but actually it is really masculine to be in control of your internal reactions and not react and respond. If somebody can get you angry, they have control over you. And if you can control your emotions in your internal environment, that is actually like stoicism. It's
Mm.
really masculine. It's like Marcus Aurelius type stuff. it's very difficult to be in control of your emotions, and it's easy to mistake aggressiveness or like physical strength with masculinity when that's not where it's at.
Exactly. I agree, totally agree on this. Yes, and I mean, here definitely I would love to mention that I love that you are challenging the traditional narrative here. It's so powerful to think of. I'd say like self love not as a kind of luxury, but as a foundation for the real resilience. So yeah, and here for the listeners, I'd love to mention that this isn't a fluff. Definitely, it's a mental fortitude in the action. So, what do you think? Is it true or some differences there?
No, what you just said really clicked, makes a lot of sense. Is that, it's definitely, there's a false picture of it, but the internal world is, having the resilience is the self-love is the key to resilience, because when things get tough on the external world, if you don't love yourself internally, it's going to get worse. It's going to get, bad, and you're going to be on a roller coaster ride where, depending on your external circumstances, is going to be, how your internal world is. And so when life inevitably gets tough, if you don't have that self-love, it's going to be worse. You're going to really hate yourself, instead of using that self-love as resilience and understanding that this is just you know this too will pass, and that you can overcome these things because you love yourself and you have confidence in yourself.
Understood. Yeah, definitely. And um, like for your book, I mean, your book emphasizes focusing on the internal over external. So, which is such a grounding philosophy. But why do you think men in particular are drawn to the external validation, like whether it's career, status, or the material things?
I think it's a societal thing. I think that we don't learn at a young age that how to look internally and introspect. That we learn that we have this checklist that we're supposed to accomplish. That we're supposed to go to school. We're supposed to get good grades, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, marry somebody, have children, and there's this whole checklist of external things. And so we look to that to, okay, well, if I do all that, then I'll be happy. And if you get caught chasing all these external things, you're gonna when you achieve them, like I said, either you're gonna self sabotage or you're gonna not enjoy them for very long, and then you're gonna chase the next thing. When really what you're chasing is that internal grounding where you can be happy with what you have. And when you do achieve things, it doesn't define you. Like, the external validation, the status, all that stuff, it's so much more enjoyable when it doesn't define you and when you don't need it.
And also, like, was there, I mean, what was the moment for you when you realized that no external win was going to heal the inner wounds?
So I would say that I got out of Iraq, and then I went to college, got a degree, got a really good high paying job back with the government as a IT project manager. I bought myself a house, got married. I then retired from the medical issues that I've had since being back from Iraq and stuff. And I moved to Costa Rica. So I think when I moved to Costa Rica and I'm in Costa Rica and the honeymoon phase wore off, where everything's awesome and still kind of on vacation, like the depression started to creep back in. And then I felt even worse for being depressed in paradise because, seemingly I had this world that people would be envious of. And here I am depressed still. So it didn't matter what I changed in my external world. I had problems internally from childhood and from combat and from chronic illness.
Exactly. Wow. And I have to say that that's so relatable, especially in a world where like men are constantly measured by their output. And I really think like what you're saying is a wake up call that many of us need to hear. Like success on the outside actually means a little if you are broken on the inside. So yeah, that's true, definitely.
Fixing your inside actually makes it easier to influence your reality and your life, your external things. It makes it easier to succeed so you won't self-sabotage because you've worked through those negative beliefs that were causing you to self-sabotage. And so fixing that internal stuff, it's not saying that the external is not important. It's saying that when you work internally, that external stuff's just gonna fall in line.
Hmm, very true. Yeah, exactly. And so one more thing is like, do you think that emotional repression can uh, actually become addictive in itself?
It's a great question. I have a really good example of that. So my job in the military, I was 21 years old, 2021. I was in Iraq, and we used to look for and disarm roadside bombs.
Mhm.
And I would when a vehicle would pull up and work disarm the bomb, and it wasn't like the movies, but I would have to walk up to the disarmed bomb, and I'd have to collect the trigger, and then I would have
Mhm.
to blow up the ordnance, and then I'd have to do that repeatedly. And I have been shot at while doing that, and it can be very scary. But if you have allow that fear and you allow those emotions to be present while you're doing that job, you won't be able to do it. You'll freeze. You'll likely uh, make a mistake. So I learned how to repress that and just be able to kind of go blank and walk up to these bombs and not really have the fear. I repressed it, and I thought that was the coolest thing at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I can just go blank, and I can turn it back on when I want to, and like this is cool. But years down the road, it worked in that situation, but I never went back and revisited those emotions, and they bubble up and they come and unseemingly they don't seem related to Iraq, but they'll bubble up in certain ways with like road rage or perfectionism or different things. And um, that's where the repression, it's a good coping mechanism during trauma, but you have to go back and revisit those and work through those emotions, and then you can't just leave them down there, or they'll keep trying to find their way out.
That's so lovely. That's really, really lovely. And I want to circle back to your belief in reprogramming the subconscious with positive affirmations and gratitude. So some men hear that and also roll their eyes that thinking it's a bit too new age thing. So what would you say to those skeptics who haven't tried it out?
I can agree with you that on that. I was on that s- kind of mode of thinking,
Mhm.
but there was something that really kind of tricked. It's a brain hack. It's the way that your brain works. And so if you can imagine looking at a sports injury on the television or
Mhm.
thinking of something gross or painful, you can
Mhm.
actually have a reaction. You can get those goosebumps. You can almost feel that rolled ankle that you just saw. It didn't really happen, but your body doesn't know the difference. And so you can actually trick your body in a good way. If you have feelings of gratitude, love, and these higher elevation feelings, your body doesn't know that it's not really happening, that you're actually just envisioning, or that you're actually recreating a feeling. And so that's one powerful thing. And then the other thing is that like your brain will look to prove your beliefs right no matter what. And so it's subconscious. It's like if you've ever bought a car or that you wanted to buy, and then all of a sudden you see that kind of car everywhere, it's because your brain is primed to see that. And so if you have a negative belief that I'm not worthy or I'm not lovable or I'm stupid, your brain is going to look for ways to or look for evidence, supporting evidence of that belief. And it's not that there isn't other evidence, it's just it's going to focus in on that. And then that's where the self-sabotage is going to happen because it doesn't like when there's a disconnect or um when it's not uh matching. So if you believe that you're not worthy of success but you're about to be successful, that's where the self-sabotage will come in. And so doing these things, while it might seem like new age or weak, it's like hacking a computer program. That's why I call it reprogramming. You're finding a bug in the code. It's a belief that you develop in trauma or in childhood or something, and it's a limiting belief. And we're going to reprogram that and we're going to change it so that our brain is looking for that positive thing. And if you look at it like that, I think it's more acceptable or more kind of like, what am I just going to look in the mirror and tell myself I'm awesome and it's going to change me? Like there's actually some science to it.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. Ooh, what a conversation, Cole. I mean, it's short, crisp, but great conversation. Thank you so much for showing up honestly, with honesty, strength, and humility, definitely. And I have to say that you have given us a ton to think about, and most importantly, like permission to feel and heal, which is very important. Yeah. So, dear listeners, if you have been listening and thinking that, oh, I have got work to do, good. That's the first step. And I'd love to mention that check out Cole's book, Internal Greater Than External, uh, Calming the Chaos Within. And it's definitely a powerhouse of practical tools for anyone who is ready to upgrade their inner game. And so, Cole, like if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the best medium to connect?
I would say you can find me on YouTube. I've been starting to post videos. I've switched over to podcasts, being a guest on podcasts now recently, but on YouTube, it's at C Grace 21. And then you can find the book on Amazon by just searching Cole Grace. And I'm also on Facebook, but it's kind of like a personal page. And I do post some of the mental health stuff on there. But if you wanted to connect there, you could as well.
Amazing, amazing, lovely. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And always remember that real strength isn't about bottling it all up. It's all about facing like your inner world head on and building from there. So, with this hope, until next time, keep your mind strong, your heart open, and let's redefine masculinity altogether. So, this is your host, Avik, signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Take care.